Well, everyone's heard of PTSD. How about PPSD? That's post-pandemic stress disorder. We'll learn all about it with a leading national expert next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
I think the only time in my adult life when I suffered bouts of depression was the 6 weeks when we couldn't come into the office. Judge Clay Jenkins closed down all non-essential services, and that included us. And I remember being at home in front of a ring light and just getting depressed because Sunday and Monday and Tuesday were all the same. I think we're all suffering from some version of PTSD, but there's a new name for it. It's PPSD, and to talk about that today, Rich Cavaness. He is the world-renowned speaker, author, coach, and founder of Cavaness Enterprises. Thanks for coming on the show.
Glad to be here, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Okay, so PPSD.
Yes, post-traumatic, post-pandemic stress disorder. Excuse me, got my tongue tied there. But yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people have really struggled with the last 18 months. People have anxiety, people have, they're not able to sleep, fatigue issues, and depending on what type of how the pandemic's affected them, some people actually were sick, obviously. Some people lost their jobs. Some people have been displaced. And they maybe had to move to another place. Some people have had to do career resets. So it's a real thing. And a lot of people have been just struggling with how to kind of get life back on track again. You know, the whole wearing the mask had its issues. And then the social distancing has its issues. A lot of people experience loneliness, a lot of just a lack of human contact. Yeah. It just affected a lot of people. Well, probably all of us to some degree, you know, mentally and emotionally.
And it injected so much fear into society. I'm not saying that wasn't warranted, but it was like we were treating each other with leprosy, right? We just didn't want to touch. We didn't want to shake hands. And that's traumatizing.
It is. And you and I both know that when you have fear, for a lot of people, fear paralyzes them. And when you hear it every single day, you hear about everybody dying, people getting sick, people having to wear masks, social distancing, you put all this fear on top of people, becomes this heavy cloud, and it kind of weighs on your shoulders. And I'm a firm believer that a lot of people it's affected them significantly. And so, you know, I've tried everything I can to help people, and I think I've come up with a solution to do that.
Well, he's a prolific author. We're going to talk all about his books in a minute, but I want you to know, Rich, there's a great video on the web. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
I believe that every person was born for a purpose, fashioned by the Creator, and that everything we need for success and happiness and well-being is etched into our DNA from the moment that we've been conceived. You are nature's greatest miracle. I was actually very blessed growing up. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and was raised there most of my childhood, and just a great place to live. And my dad was obviously a very big influence in my life. Taught me a lot about sales and management and those type of things, and really inspired me to go into business. And then I decided I wanted to do the passion of my life, which was skiing. So I ended up getting a degree, which you're not going to meet most people that have a degree in ski instruction coaching and racing, but that's me. And I ended up being a ski school director for several years in the Pacific Northwest. Not long after that, actually, I got married. I married young, age of 20, and then we ended up having 2 amazing children who have gone on to be very successful adults. I'm very proud of them, and they make me proud to call them their dad. And then I just had this desire to go into business and to be my own boss and to make my own decisions and determine my own future. So I ended up getting my own insurance agency and being involved in the insurance agency for over 10 years. During that time, I had a spiritual awakening in my life, and I became a Christian. I never read the Bible before in my life. I had many questions that I had about life that were being answered for me at the time. And who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going? And I believe that the Bible and the Christian faith really helped me to be able to answer those questions. And that was a really enlightening time for me in my life. In the early 2000s, I felt a really strong impression to go into ministry and to use my gift of teaching, my love for public speaking and writing to help others in their journey through life. I spent the next 8 years of my life in ministry and partnering in a personal development company and traveling a lot. I thought I was happy, doing my passion, living my definite major purpose and writing books, helping others, but I didn't see what was really happening in my life, especially with my family. Then came the most painful, horrible, gut-wrenching 3 years of my life. My workaholic issues, my self-centered mindset, and my long periods of time away from home became a perfect storm that led to having a relationship outside of my marriage. In a very short period of time, my poor choices cost me my ministry, my job, my family, and the most painful loss was my 23-year marriage. My relationships with my parents and my sister and my children, my friends, and even my business partner, they all became very strained and emotionally taxing. Over the next several years, I experienced real pain, grief. I felt alone, depressed. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, couldn't catch my breath, and just had fear, even moments of ending my life. It was really a dark time for me. I was in a dark, lonely place, reliving daily how a few bad decisions can really alter the entire course of your life. So there I was in my early 40s, wallowing in guilt and shame and anger and sadness and fear, when a friend introduced me to a personal development program that literally saved my life, called The Road. You know, one thing I learned through all of this is that, you know, when you're a coach and a trainer, a pastor and a teacher, it's a lot easier to see everyone else's weak points and their faults than yours. And so The Road really helped me to look inside myself, go really deep and wide with who I was, the mask that I was wearing, and why I was living out certain negative tapes and habits in my life. It was there where I really discovered who the real Rich Cavaness was.
What I love about that, Rich, is that you're vulnerable and you share with the audience that you've walked a rough road yourself.
Yes.
I think too many coaches haven't lived the journey that they're advising about. But you can really identify with people on many different levels, can't you?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because a lot of my coaching comes from kind of the perspective of, hey, I've had some challenging times in my life. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have both previously been married. And if you watch, you know, my story video, you'll see that, or that happened to me. And what's interesting is that we're actually impacting a lot of couples now because we've experienced that. So we're trying very hard to help couples by telling them, and that's another big thing, Jeff, too, with the PTSD, is a lot of couples, the divorce rate has skyrocketed. There's a lot of physical abuse, mental abuse. You know, there's a lot of emotional abuse that's happened. Couples have been struggling too. They've been spending so much time together, they're starting to realize, I don't know if I really like this person. I mean, seriously, we're laughing about it, but I mean, it's really what happened to a lot of couples. They're like, wow, I never spent so much time with you. I'm not really sure if this is going to work. So a lot of people have been having marriage issues. And because of our background, we've been able to help a lot of people with that and walk them through, you know, processes and systems to help them deal with that. Because I can tell you firsthand, divorce is not the answer. It's a very painful and horrible experience. And so if we can help couples to avoid that, that's our goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a prolific author. I wrote one book. It just about killed me. Let's go ahead and put up on the screen. How many books have you written now, Rich?
I've written, 5 books, and I've written a couple of workbooks and workshops and things like that. So, yeah.
And let's talk about your latest one. Hold up the workbook for us.
So this is the workbook. It's called Power to Thrive, and it's Bible-based. And so basically it has to do with rising above mediocrity, unlocking your God-given power, and elevating your everyday living. And it's kind of a response to the whole post-pandemic. I wanted to give people some solutions and some help on what they can do to rise above this, so that fear doesn't encapsulate us to the point where it paralyzes us, that we can actually literally, do some things for ourselves to help.
Now, did you start working on the book before the pandemic or during the pandemic?
You know what? We talked a little bit about this. So this book actually has been kind of a culmination of 30 years of my research, my personal experiences, and all of that, and all the coaching and all that I've received, and being a senior pastor for a number of years too, and going through that whole experience. So it wasn't intended necessarily to be post-pandemic, but it's turned out to be, sometimes things, the way that life works, just it came together, and it's actually, I think, really a great solution for a lot of people to read and then get coaching with it.
We're going to give people information on how to order the book in a minute, but I want you to whet their appetite. What's one thing they'll learn in the book?
Okay, so the book's basically divided into 3 different sections. First one has to do with identity, especially during the pandemic. A lot of people kind of lost a sense of purpose. They lost a sense of, who am I? And, all this fear paralyzed people. So we talk about that. We talk about having a mission and having values, and we talk about the importance of having God in your life. I'm a firm believer that, we were created in the image of God. We have we can do a lot of things. There's a lot of people who don't know the Lord, and they're very successful people. I just happen to believe that your life is more fulfilling, more successful when you have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior in your life. And so I walk people through a process to kind of introduce them more in a fuller way, because there's basically 3 groups of people, Jeff, that'll benefit from the book. Okay, I designed it specifically for, number 1, those Christians out there that are completely kind of stuck and feel like something's missing in their life. The second group would be people who attend church, but they're just not getting out of it, especially now where even a lot of people aren't going to church anymore. The attendance for live churches has dropped dramatically. So people are doing Zoom, or they're not doing anything. And so that group of people would be great for Power to Thrive. And then the third group would be, which was me in my early life, people who maybe were raised in a Christian home and then basically went off and did their own thing. And they realize now, after maybe going through these last 18 months, you know what? Something's missing in my life, and I believe that God can help me with this. So that's really what Power to Thrive is all about, is helping people to take where they're at today and elevate their life.
You wrote a book about gratitude I think was a brilliant book, because not enough of us really appreciate the gifts that we've been given.
Yeah.
We get upset when they mess up our latte at Starbucks. There's a certain gratitude for being able to say that you live in a warm home and have enough food to eat, right?
Yeah, well, in the Power to Thrive, I talk a lot about mindset. There's a whole bunch of chapters related to that, because I believe mindset is more important than talent and ability. I believe that gratitude is the catalyst that fuels a positive mental attitude. I really do. When you start to live and talk and breathe gratitude, there's a chemical reaction that happens in your brain. Because, a lot of people think that gratitude and thankfulness are the same, but they're not. I can be, you can do something for me and I can say thank you. I do mean it genuinely, but it doesn't necessarily affect me, right? But when you have gratitude, it's something that actually stirs within your heart. It's something that happens to you deep. And so gratitude is, and that's why it's a mind changer, literally. It changes who you are on the inside. And so I'm a firm believer that, gratitude really can help people to really kind of put their life back kind of where it needs to be. We live in America. We live in Texas. We should be really grateful because there could be a whole lot worse places in the world to live. And, I'm just a real firm believer that, like during Snowmageddon, there was a lot of people that had a lot of things that happened to them, pipes bursting and displaced and all that. But, even then, maybe you were really thankful and grateful you had insurance. Right? I mean, think about that. I mean, if you didn't have insurance for that, that could have been a disaster for you. So there's always something to be grateful for and in everything.
Yes, and just choosing to look upon it as an adventure. I mean, if you were home with the kids, I mean, how often do you get to have a camp out at home?
I don't know how many people really thought that, but it was certainly an adventure. I know for my wife and I, we just tried to live our lives through all the rolling power outages and everything. Yep. It was kind of fun in a way, but
sure.
We were fortunate we didn't have a lot of things happen.
Well, I know there's many different ways people can engage you. You have workshops, you have keynote speeches, and you also do coaching. How does somebody know when they need a coach?
Good. Man, I like that question. That's a great question. I just finished my next book. It's called Next Level Living. Wow. Every Christian needs a coach in their life. And how do you know? Well, if you're living your life and you realize, you know what, I'm missing, there's a piece missing. I either need more skills or I need more knowledge, or I just need to kind of amp my game up, and I need some help. That's a good indication that you could use a coach. I don't know about you, but I have a trainer that I work with, a coach physically. So I work out a gym. I have a financial coach. I have a business coach. I have a sales coach. I mean, I believe in coaching myself. I'm not just a person who's, said, hey, I can't do anything else, so I'll go into coaching. I live it, breathe it, and I've been doing it for over 15 years. And so I really do believe that most everybody needs to have a coach to really help them go. Because what happens is that a lot of people see life through their own lens. Whereas if I was to give you a new set of glasses, Jeff, and said, okay, I want you to put these glasses on now, and you're like, wow, I see the whole room looks completely different.
Yes.
Well, that's what a coach can do for you. They see things from a different perspective. And a coach can be the kind of person that isn't like a friend. All right. Now, they're nice to you. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't yell and scream at people, but I'm not necessarily there to be their friends. I'm there to really help them get their life elevated, to help them rise above where they're at. And so sometimes you have to speak tough love. Sometimes you have to hold people accountable, which is a big part of coaching is accountability. And a lot of times in coaching, I can see things. I could come into your place of business, and in 5 or 10 minutes, I could see a couple things that you're not even seeing.
Yeah, blind spots.
And so that's why coaching is so valuable, so valuable. I mean, it's really helped me to be the person that I am today.
Rich, you've been an amazing guest. We're going to put up a couple of websites so people can engage. Start with your personal website. richcavaness.com is his website for speaking and coaching. And then the new book that you can pre-order, powertothrivebook.com. Yeah. So excited for you, Rich. You probably wrote 3 on the way here.
Once you write one, the other ones can come a little easier. So I do tell people that too.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Glad to be here, Jeff.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.